again, this is Jeffrey Cranford, and again with Tracy Hansen. So we've been going the last few weeks through the Proverbs to try to work through, does it have anything maybe beyond our spiritual lives? Can it help us even in life in general? And especially for those of you who love golf, I wanted to help me a little bit in golf. Now this little series, this little segment here is really a confessional for me, because I've always felt like the guy on the outside looking in. I probably played, I never had full status like you. I played maybe 25 tour events through the years, Europe, regular tour, this and that. And I always felt like I shouldn't be there. I didn't feel like I belonged. So out of that insecurity was born a need to feel like I belonged. And I did a proverbially stupid thing because I wasn't disciplined by the word. And I still have a tendency, if I'm not cautious, to name drop, to brag about myself, to tell people how good I am. And as a friend of mine once said, I can play a lot better than this, I just never have, So I'm going to read this and then talk to me a little bit about maybe your own experience and some things you've observed as you read this. Proverbs 27, 1 and 2. Do not boast about tomorrow. Well, you don't even know what that day is going to bring forth. So don't be I'm going to shoot low and this. In your mind, if you want to be confident, that's fine. But when it starts coming out your mouth, then verse 2, let another praise you and not your own mouth, a stranger and not your own lips. And when I remember first reading that and back to that discipline, I just felt, that is totally me. Have you experienced? I mean, you honestly never brag about your golf, and you're the best player on our whole staff. But talk to a little bit about that. Have you felt that insecurity, feeling a little bit?
I think personally, for me, my insecurity goes the other way, and I don't give myself enough credence for what I've accomplished. And I've been around players who are very boastful and self-confident. And it can make me feel smaller, like inadequate, because of how confident or boastful they are. And I am not a fan of somebody who name drops.
Yeah.
And
yet you still hang with me. Thank you for that. So sometimes I'm guilty of
Jeffrey.
that. So it's not really an issue with you, but you have seen it in others, and it's off-putting.
Yes,
isn't
very
it?
much.
When people are always talking, and I know in our culture, in our day, trash talking, NFL and the NBA, and telling somebody you're going to waste them and all that kind of thing seems to be kind of the end thing to do, but it's not wise. And it's not wise. And I think it leads to something else. It's indicative and leads then to, Proverbs here in 29. Listen to what Proverbs 29 says in verse 25. The fear of man, which is really that insecurity, is the fear of man. I care about what other people think, brings a snare, and he who trusts in the Lord will be exalted. And you never see the fear of man more easily than on the first tee of a pro-am, do you? Have you had some weird experiences with that?
Oh, my goodness. Especially as a female pro, and typically we play with a lot of males, we tend to get put down more than exalted up. And so they want to puff their egos up, and they're really nervous, and
so they're failing 27, 1 and 2. They're boasting
right.
and thinking, right?
Yeah.
And then they get on the first tee.
And then they top it, they shank it, they whiff it, know, and they're just it's like, just be you.
Right.
Just show up and swing the club.
Exactly. Look, probably none of you have ever struggled with any of that, but I'll tell you, the fear of man can be debilitating. And that's what the Bible says. It brings a snare. Now, it also does that in our spiritual life. When maybe we're at a party, at the club, or in our community or something, and faith in Jesus, or Jesus comes up, and then you just go into a shell because you're terrified of what anybody's going to think.
Yeah.
There's no wisdom in that. There's no honor for Jesus, and then you feel horrible about yourself. I always say, just get over it. Just say, look, I'm a Jesus person. I'm open about it. I'm out. I'm a Jesus person. I will not fear what other people think. So I think it's a big piece of wisdom here, is and how helpful that is.
Yeah, and I think just off of that, Jeff, that we can claim and share that we believe in Jesus, but we don't have to preach or bring all this theology to the conversation. We just have to be ourselves and build the relationship.
And the theology will follow when they become a Nicodemus and maybe give you a buzz and say, hey, can we meet for coffee? Some of my most exciting moments, and I've had a few of them. So there I go, boasting again. But anyway, hope this makes sense to you. Don't talk about your game. Self-talk, fine, but don't go out. Let another person praise you and not yourself. And it'll help you not only in your spiritual life, but it'll help you on the first tee of that Pro-Am that's coming up. So anyway, hope that's helpful, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next week.